This is one of many car parks in China, filled with what looks like very new cars, many of them electric and all technically registered and sold, but yet with next to no mileage on the odometer. These scenes have become more commonplace in China, and that's because manufacturers are selling the cars to themselves. Why? Well, they need the impressive sales numbers, whether those sales are legitimate or not. This is the world of China's zero mileage used cars, and they need them. They need them to attract the government subsidies. They need them to attract investment. They need them to attract the worldwide press, depicting success and growth. It's all smoke and mirrors. So why is this video important for you to watch? Well, because China are now attempting to unload these unwanted cars into other countries. Hello, and a very warm welcome back to the channel. Apologies about the somewhat dramatic intro there, but this is quite an important video. So this, published yesterday by Automotive News, local Chinese governments promote zero mileage used car exports, inflating sales and growth figures. I mean, what else can you do when you've got car park after car park filled with fake used cars that no one actually wants to buy, and they're already in a saturated market? In this article, it claims that 90% of used vehicle exports from China in 2024, well, it was just the unloading of these zero mileage cars to other countries. Now, to understand what's happened here, we need to go back to 2009. That's when the Chinese government started to provide these heavy subsidies for electric vehicle sales. They wanted to get ahead of the curve and so financially incentivize companies to build and sell them. The problem was, it didn't really matter if what they were making was really any good or even if anyone bought them, because at the end of the day, they could just sell them to themselves, park them up and collect their pat on the back subsidy for a job well done and worry about selling that car later on. Even if it had to be sold for a loss, the money was still being made on the subsidy. Beyond the financial gain, the other thing that these emulated sales figures and seemingly rapid growth could bring about was investment. Key to any organisation looking to scale in a cash-hungry industry. Money flows in from investors, it flows in from the government subsidies, and maybe the occasional legitimate sale, given that with all this funding, these brands can now create what looks like very glamorised Western marketing.
You can make history tomorrow.
Yeah, total sellout. By 2019, 10 years later, it had become horribly apparent that these cars, well, they were just stockpiling, weren't they? And something had to be done. So China opened up the ability to export them. In fact, many local governments are still actively seeking ways to grease the wheels of this process, as the article reports. The tactics include creating extra licenses for the export of zero mileage cars, fast-tracking tax rebate claims, investing in export infrastructure, and even funding networking events to encourage zero mileage used car exports. Now, one of the figureheads who's brought this to the attention of those not resident in China is this chap here. He's the boss of Chinese manufacturer Great Wall. Now, he's come out and publicly criticised the sale of zero-mile cars in China for fear that they could greatly impact the reputation of Chinese-made EVs. And he's very right, isn't he? And also, that is an incredibly brave thing to do in China, given the level of government support that these exports are receiving, and likely the state involvement in some of these larger manufacturers. Very brave indeed. He actually compared it to the doomed Evergrande Group, who became severely indebted, went bust, and triggered a crisis in China's real estate market. This has got all the same makings, highlighting the very real concerns about China's economy, so he was quite right in that as well, I'd say. So where are these cars going then? Where are they ending up? Well, you think about it. The USA, they're protected by heavy tariffs against Chinese-made cars now, as is the EU, so it's very unlikely that we're going to see them turn up there. Russia, on the other hand, they've actually effectively banned the import of zero-mileage used cars from manufacturers who are already resident and doing business in their country. And even smaller countries like Jordan, amongst others, have redefined what a used car is by mandating a longer period after the car's initial registration before it can be considered used and therefore imported as a used vehicle. The UK, however, as I've said before, it has no tariffs in place protecting it from the onslaught of China's electric vehicles. The one by chance factor that's likely stopped boatloads of these turning up here is because we've got right-hand drive cars. However, let's not give them any ideas, shall we? So what is the big deal then? What's the problem? I mean, if you're going to get a cheap car out of this, should you care? Should you care where it's coming from? Should you care about the circumstances that's led up to you having that car? Well, I think you should. I think there's a few very good reasons as to why you should care. For one, you can't really trust the reviews or opinions on any of these cars. I spoke about this in a previous video, how some of these Chinese brands, they were paying influencers to attend their events and effectively say nice things about their cars. And on the flip side, they were attempting to sue anyone who dared say anything negative. I say attempting to sue them, many have been sued by these Chinese brands for saying quite often justified comments about the cars. Now, on note of attending events and saying positive things and being paid to do so, JM on Cars has a fantastic video on this, and if you haven't watched it yet, you absolutely should. Now, I've watched with total dismay as certain creators who I once respected greatly, they have effectively taken the payday from some of these brands and gave an overwhelmingly, unrealistically positive review, shall we say. I know some of them are going to be genuine, but herein lies the problem. How do you tell which is genuine and which is not? Secondly, the cars are built to a price. When you've got that cutthroat, maximise profits at all cost mentality, that's going to come at a cost, and quite often it's a cost to quality. And I'm sure many of you have seen the videos, as I have, of crashing Chinese EVs, malfunctioning systems on them, safety equipment failing, and these cars bursting into flames. I'm sure we've all seen videos like that. Now, this is exacerbated by the fact that these manufacturers, they know certain examples of these cars, they're likely never going to be sold. They're just going to be sold to themselves to boost the figures and then parked up or shipped off to some foreign land. Are they really going to use the best parts, the best workmanship and stringent quality control when that's the case? I can't see it. Finally, you are completely and utterly nuts if you're willing to put your cash on one of these cars, if in the not too difficult to imagine future, these manufacturers work out that putting their steering wheel on the other side of their cheaply made cars would allow zero mileage export to the UK. Beyond the quality issues you're likely to face, you'll be paying into this hellish scheme, which is probably about the worst thing you could ever do for the environment and motor industry overall. Morally, there's a lot to consider there. Even if you're buying a brand new one, do just remember that over 400 of these Chinese electric car companies, they've gone bust, leaving customers in the lurch just in the last few years. But then that's no real surprise, is it? When you consider the subsidy-rich, carrot-dangling state of China's economy. I mean, yes, you may pay more for a European, a Japanese, a British-made car, if you can find one of those these days, but you're paying more for good reason. The R&D, the testing, the heritage, the fair employment policies, and the quality are generally what you would expect. If you're after a budget-friendly option, and you truly care about the environment and all the other factors, and you don't want to buy new, I completely understand that, and I would say the best thing you could do is find a quality used car and run that until the end of its life. Now, if you do opt to do that, then please do bear in mind today's video sponsor, Vehicle Score. Now, this isn't about selling you anything. It's not a Chinese EV manufacturer after all. They offer a free check where you can go on, have a look at a vehicle's MOT history, see the good and bad points for completely free. But if you do opt to buy one of their comprehensive paid checks, then do make use of my 20% discount in the description below. As ever, thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, hit like, and if you want to see more like it, hit the subscribe button.